Welcome to Shorty Supercoach. We've got plenty of names to get stuck into today. Obviously, we've seen everything we need to see now, or at least all we're going to get to see. I wish I could see a bit more because I tell you what, at the start of the weekend, I was pretty settled. And then my team will be out tomorrow night. I'll do a little team update, but I tell you what, there's been a bit of carnage at Shorty Supercoach, but plenty of games, plenty of names to get through. Little bit of housekeeping. Leagues will be out soon enough, so stay tuned for that. Give the Patreon a little plug as well. You can guarantee yourself a league spot there. Thanks for a couple other guys jumping on board. I'll give them a bit of a shout out in my team video. So plenty of games, plenty of names. Now, there is a bit to get through, so bear with me. I'll timestamp it, so if you've got a few players in mind, just take a bit of a suss through the description and probably the comments by now. So Adelaide and Gold Coast, feels like absolutely ages ago. But Brodie Smith off the top, very interesting fella. 34 touches, 121 Supercoach, 5 clearances, and playing a lot of midfield. Now, he's like 480k, so he'd be fairly unique, and I wouldn't absolutely endorse him, but he's been a guy who's scored really well off the half-back flank before. And now we always were wondering, who is going to get injected into the Crows midfield because they're pretty slow in there. Crouch boys, Sloan, they needed to inject some speed, and it could be, or at least it looks like it's Smith. So it gives us something to think about, but I don't feel as if he's going to be too popular. But Rory Laird is a man who'll be pretty popular, and even more so after his 32 touches and 132 Supercoach, and that's what we're after. That's what he can do, just racks up the touches and really, really good scores. So he had a bit of a down patch last year, which is understandable because the whole club was struggling and he was part of it. But I'd expect him to bounce back. He's certainly a guy that's been in my side at times and I've strongly considered, so he's pretty reliable. Ben Crocker seems to be firming for round one. He's about 150k. He's not going to set the world on fire. He had 15 touches, 56 Supercoach, and history would suggest that's probably what he's going to give you. Nothing too special. I don't see him playing a role that's going to see him do too much better than what he's done previously at the Pies. But at the minute, rookies across most lines, particularly back and forward, seem a bit scarce. So he could provide at least a bloke who's playing and could average 50 or 60. Could be what we're after. So keep your eye on him. Wayne Milera, such a good first practice game, just took a step back. I've got to say, I didn't see this game. I didn't see a lot over the Friday and Saturday, but just the 14 touches, 57 Supercoach. So purely from the numbers, it was disappointing, and you'd have to say that if you were considering him, that would have just scared you off a touch. Same can be said for Chayce Jones, just 12 touches, 34 Supercoach, didn't seem to be all too involved. So again, he's awkwardly priced. We would have wanted a hell of a lot more for a breakout contender sort of fella. So put a line through him, I dare say. Now the Gold Coast Suns, an absolute stack of options here. Yet there aren't too many that are in my side, but a lot are considering many of these names. Macpherson is a guy that is certainly on a lot of people's radars. 443k, he's playing midfield. Now, 31 touches, 127 Supercoach, certainly puts him on the radar. Now, he had a very good first pracky game, if my memory serves me correct. Now, that certainly puts him in the frame. We've been discussing, there's availability in the midfield at the Suns. Who's going to step up to that role? Looks like it's Macpherson. There's just something about it that something says to me, no, steer clear, danger. I don't know why. Maybe I just haven't looked at him enough. Maybe if I watched this game, I would have been more impressed or taken by him. But I just feel like there is better options at cheaper price. I'm talking your Smiths, your Stevens, your Brayshaws, who we'll get into. But gee, he couldn't have put forward much of a better case. So you might have seen that game and you might be saying, Shorty, he was dynamite. He's a strong consider for me, but I didn't see him and I can't comment too well aside from the numbers, but he's certainly stacking a fairly good case. Lachie Weller, 27 touches, 82 Supercoach. I probably would have wanted more. I'm a big Weller fan. I just maybe wanted a tad more. I think he's going to be a good selection. Still wouldn't surprise me if after 5 rounds we go, why didn't we consider Weller a bit more? But on what we've got to base it off at the minute, I'm not going to go with him. Hugh Greenwood, a favourite of mine, 16 touches, and he only scored 76 Supercoach points. And I've raved on about his contested ball and tackling. And perhaps it's probably a flaw in his game, I guess. He's so good at that, but getting it on the outside and finding other ways to win the ball, the easy way, uncontested, spread, he probably doesn't have. I mean, 16 touches, 13 contested. That's a great number on its own. 6 clearances, 6 tackles. I mean, if you get 13 contested touches, you're probably anticipating, another 10 contested minimum, But he only had 3 uncontested possessions. So it's like a strength, but also a weakness. So he didn't, he wasn't poor by any means, but maybe that's what could hold him back. I still stand by the fact I think he'll average 90, but there have been a few other options that have put their hand up. And like Macpherson, those other options are a bit cheaper. So something to think about. Jack Lukosius, he's been in and out of my side. I haven't filmed the video for tomorrow yet, but I don't even know if he's going to be in or out by the time I publish it tomorrow. 17 touches, 10 marks, just the 58 Supercoach. But again, he was pretty solid against the Cats in the first pracky. Very talented player. He's playing a defensive role, easy ball, intercepting marks, and he's 274. Awfully tempting. We know how highly he's rated because he's such a high pick. It's a tough one. I'm not going to sit here and go pick him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he averages somewhere in the 80s, and that's going to be really good for that price range. But also, a lot of people will be going, Shorty, Dill Robertson, he's way more reliable. A lot less is going to go wrong with him, surely. He's slightly cheaper. So, you can pick either of those guys. Lukosius could be anything, but it is just, he's much earlier in his career. Obviously, he's a very young fella, so we could see a big spike. We could see a plateau. If you're putting Robertson versus Lukosius, you probably lean toward Robertson, not because he's any of a sexier pick, but just he's vanilla. Nice, plain, reliable, should just score solid. Lukosius, probably more variable, but I'm a big fan, so very interesting. Couple of young blokes. Jeremy Sharp, 14 touches, 42 Supercoach from 46% time on ground. Got to be considered, hopefully in the frame for round 1. And Matty Rowell, 14 touches, 36 Supercoach. Didn't have the best ball use looking at his efficiency, but he only played 41% of the game as well. So I think he'll be playing round 1, getting midfield time. Still lock and load him for sure. We'll move on to Hawthorn and Melbourne after I take a bit of a drink because there is a lot of talking here. There wasn't a stack from this game, I must say. James Sicily, 29 touches, 95 Supercoach points. Probably just assured people that he's back in town, still doing what he does. Tommy Mitchell, 24 touches, 112 Supercoach. And again, I've said it before, I don't question his ball winning ability or his scoring. What I question is the fact that he's probably going to get rested at some point, or the chance of him pulling up sore, copping a knock, just concerns me at that price. And Damon Greaves, just the 2 touches, barely got on the ground. I think he only played a quarter, or something like that. So I think many of us would have thought he would be a defensive rookie. It's probably up in the air now. Still might get selected because Blake Hardwick is out, but we're just going to have to wait and see on the teams. Over at the Ds, Christian Petracca, 23 touches, 72 Supercoach. Wasn't as unbelievable as his opening match. Viney stole the show on this occasion, but I think a lot of people will still be considering him. I still expect a really good season from him. Max Gawn just does what he does, 68 Supercoach from not even half the game, so outstanding stuff. And Luke Jackson, I wouldn't be endorsing his selection, but he looks like a saucy pick down the track. I think I haven't checked his ownership, but I've seen the odd team going with him. I don't think you could, but 198k, 71 Supercoach from about 49% time on ground. Bloody impressive numbers. He's got a leap. He looks impressive, but obviously Gawn's the main man, and I wouldn't be selecting Jackson. He'll probably be a guy we pick a fair bit down the track if there's anything to go by. Port Adelaide and the Dogs. Dan Houston, 14 touches, 40 Supercoach from about 40% time on the ground. And I think it was Will Hayes, really, I think it was Hayes, got him a bit of a knock, pretty aggressive tackle, and sort of shook him up, and I think they just rested him. So I'm still going with him. I'm still pretty confident. Playing midfield, finds a fair bit of the ball. And Georgiades, yeah, I'm just guessing at that one, but 7 touches, 43 Supercoach. He's 130k. I don't see him being much of a scorer at all. But again, there's probably not a stack of options at the minute for our rookie priced players. So keep him on the radar. And over at the Dogs, my boy Tim English. He shouted it loud and clear. 13 touches, 37 hitouts, 123 Supercoach. At about quarter time, I was saying, Tim, could you just calm down? Just settle down, mate. I want you to go well, but not too well. His ownership's gone up a touch, but also Jacobs went really well too. So it's sort of, I think both owners would have been really happy. But he did everything I wanted from my point of view. He looked great. I just hope not too many people jump on board, because I reckon he's ready to explode. Marcus Bontempelli, he's Robbo's number 1 in the paper, and he could be many of our Supercoach people out here. He could be the number 1 for us too. He's looking outstanding. 27 touches, 9 clearances, tonned up again. So it's hard to argue the point. I know I've tried to over the journey, and look, I'm not selecting him, but he does look outstanding, so it's tough to argue. West Coast from Fremantle, Timmy Kelly. He just keeps putting in really good performances. He just finds the ball, 29 touches, 108 Supercoach. He just finds the pill. It's as simple as that. And while I'm still unsure if he can push his average up too much further beyond that 105, because that'll be where you make your call, because you want him to be a keeper. You want him to average probably close to 110. But he's been pretty solid in these 2 pracky games. Nic Nat, unbelievable numbers really. His points per minute must be insane. 13 touches and 100 Supercoach points from 58% time on ground. Obviously they've just got him through. He's not going to play full minutes in the pre-season. Why would you? Why would you do that to Nic Nat? He just needs to get a little bit of touch and not play the full game, save him for the season proper. As I've always said, he plays, he scores. The question is, how much can his body take? Can he play week in, week out? Can he play a full season? Do you want to keep him for the full season? I don't know. I can't argue his scoring, but he does concern me with his body. But a lot of people are jumping on board purely because he can just score unbelievably with 10 to 12 touches. He does that well. Jarrod Brander, 17 touches, 76 Supercoach. He's at 133k, and I think he'll be popular. If he can get a round 1 berth, that'll be really, really good, because he's been playing on a wing. He's a very talented player. I know the Cats were really keen on him not long ago, and if my memory serves me correct, he was like a pick 12 or 13, something like that. And yeah, we desperately need guys like him to get a game round 1, so hopefully he does. Moving on to the Dockers, and there was a bit there at the Dockers, I must say. Andrew Brayshaw really caught my eye. 24 touches, 102 Supercoach. He backed up a really good first pracky game, so I think he's got to be strongly considered. He's playing midfield time. Fife was singing his praises on the radio Tuesday morning, so he looks like he's ready to take the next step. He's about 383k. And like I said earlier, he probably falls into that category of Deven Smith, Brayshaw. There's a number of guys in that sort of category, but they seem to be the best options. I don't know if you can go with all of them, but I'm certainly really warming to Brayshaw. Michael Walters, 21 touches, 91 Supercoach. He had a real mix and match, played a lot forward, also went in the midfield and just was explosive, just bang in one quarter, had like 11 touches, showed what he could do, has so much class. So for the owners out there, I think they'll be pleased enough, but also hoping he doesn't spend too much time forward because the Dockers will struggle and he might get a bit cold up there sometimes. So get him in the guts frequently enough. Lachie Schultz, 14 touches, 59 Supercoach. He's about 208k. I'm seeing him, people getting worried about the lack of rookies, seeing him at about 200k, jumping on board. He's kicked a couple of goals. It's a no from me. I can just see him averaging sort of 40 to 50. I just don't see him winning enough of the ball. People out there have probably seen more of him than I have, but I do think there's better options out there. But he has put forward a good case. Tobe Watson, 123k, defender. Again, probably just a few injuries at the Dockers. He might be a bloke who gets a game. I don't think he'll score well. But hey, we can't be too picky at the minute. It seems like we'll be just hoping to get a few rookies playing and then select who we can. Then maybe we can be picky. But at the minute, hopefully get a few through. Stephen Hill was a big one. He hurt his quad. He's going to be out for a little bit by all reports. So you just got to get him out of the team. Even if it was just a tweak or whatever, the fact that he hurt himself a little bit, super concerning. As soon as I heard that, got rid of him, which sort of triggered a real reshaping of my side. But, real concerning, real disappointing for him. Because he was shaping as, like a really cheap option that could just play an average 75, 80-ish pretty easily. But going to have to give that one away. And Caleb Serong didn't get much time on the ground. You'd have to think he looks a bit unlikely to play, but time will tell. He was pretty good in the first Pracky game. Giants and Richmond. Stephen Coniglio just showed what he can do. 32 touches, 135 Supercoach, a couple of goals. It's what he does. When he goes big, he has big numbers everywhere, all across the stat sheet. And he's slightly discounted because he had that 0 in his last game of the season, hurt himself in the opening minutes. So he's slightly unders for what he can do. And again, he's been a guy I've considered and was in my side for quite a bit of the pre-season. Sam Jacobs, 18 touches, 27 hitouts, 111 Supercoach points. I'm standing by it. I won't be going near him, but he did put forward a real good case. So I think it probably just depends how, Mumford and a couple other guys, whether they just purely go Jacobs, because he does shoulder the ruckload really well. I like English more. I think he's got far more upside. Jacobs, I do believe, is in the twilight of his career. He was up against fairly minimal opposition. But look, he was impressive. If you were looking for encouragement, you got it. So certainly watch that one closely. Isaac Cumming, 22 touches, 245k. Took the 10 marks, also scored 111 Supercoach points. Yeah, probably I wouldn't endorse him too much because Zach Williams is still out of the side, but he's a young player that's had quite a bit of promise, quite a bit of positive talk about him. And he's cheapish, he's in that mould where people are looking at sort of moving around Stephen Hill. He's got to come into the conversation because he had 2 really solid pre-season games, but probably just job security would be the question. And then we got Tom Green and Lachie Ash. Green had 16 touches, 72 Supercoach. I think we can just about lock him in. I think he's going to play round 1, and I think he'll score all right too. Ash, he's a bit more expensive. He's a touch under 200k. Had the 16 touches as well, 62 Supercoach points, and he's a nice play. He looks really good, as you'd expect for such a high pick. Again, a bit like Cumming, will he be able to lock himself into a spot round 1, and then can he hold it? It'll be tough to say, but just assess that one because the class is obvious. And the Tigers, didn't have too much to offer. Marlion Pickett just showed what he can do. Didn't use the ball as well as he could have, but 20 touches, 61 Supercoach points. He just looks a bit, doesn't he? He just looks classy, composed. He's going to be a really good pick, and everyone's locked and loaded him. And Coleman Jones as well. He's 195k, 10 touches, 51 Supercoach from 60% time on ground. Heard a few people talk about him, but I wouldn't go anywhere near him. Good pre-season games, but I still think he's probably going to find it difficult to get consistent games. And even if he does, I don't know why we'd be going for that sort of a player. I couldn't endorse that one too heavily. Collingwood and St Kilda at the Pies. John Noble seems to be going up in popularity. Obviously, he was drafted in the mid-season trade period last year, and halfback flanker. If you look at his stats, he consistently gets 20 touches. Even last year, I think his ball use was a bit of a knock statistically last year, but he had 23 touches, 73 Supercoach, and he might be the answer to Stephen Hill. He might be, he's not that much more expensive. And if he can just roll off the halfback flank and just get an easy 16 to 22 touches most weeks, maybe more, maybe less at times, but I think he'll easily average 70. It's just a matter of if he holds his spot, but I couldn't see why he wouldn't. He looks to have had a really good pre-season, so he looks the goods at the minute. Jordan De Goey, playing a bit of midfield, 18 touches, 75 Supercoach. I don't think we can get sucked into this one because obviously Treloar, Adams, they're injured. De Goey, I do feel he's still required in the forward line for the Pies. That's where they like him to do most of his work. But he's a very good clearance player. But still, I don't think we should be picking him. Over at the Saints, Ben Long, 24 touches, 85 Supercoach. He's 283k in the forward line, and he's revelled in that move to the back line, that's for sure. He's showed a lot of dash, a lot of flair off that half-back line. I don't think we should be picking him, but, he might be a little sleeper for your draft side because I think his average is definitely going to go up. Hunter Clark, 23 touches, 56 Supercoach. We needed a lot more from him. We needed to see more than that. If we were going to pick him, we needed at least one really good game. And I think he will still have a really good season, but to go with him, we just haven't seen enough. Jade Gresham was a late out, so people wanting to see some encouragement from him didn't get it. Dill Robertson, 16 touches, 60 Supercoach points, and I think he had the 9 marks. Look, like I was talking about him before with Lukosius, he just looks like he's going to be solid. I'm not sure he's going to average 90, but I think he's just going to find enough effective kicks, enough marks, and just the odd intercept to average somewhere in the 80s, you would think. And at 260k, look, it's pretty solid. It's hard to argue, really. He's so cheap, and he's going to be pretty reliable, I think. But, again, we just hope that his health is all good, obviously, for him. But in terms of him just even getting out on the ground, it's quite an impressive story. But I think he was just happy to get through that one and should be better for the run. Max King, 7 touches, just a 29 Supercoach. He's not going to set the world on fire scoring. I think we know that. And probably historically we don't want to pick a guy like him because tall forward, not going to get much of the ball, kick the odd goal. He'll have some ripping games, don't get me wrong, but we might not have the choice because he's got great job security by the looks of it. Saints love him. But I don't see... He's going to have games where he might score 80 or something like that, kick a few goals. He's also going to have games where he scores 30-odd. So he's going to be up and down, as is the nature of a young key forward. Carlton and Brisbane. This is really interesting. Now, I talk about how Stephen Hill triggered my side in a bit of movement. Well, so did this man, Sam Doherty. Scored 105, 21 touches... but I wasn't convinced. I watched this game. I specifically made sure I saw this because I wanted to see the role. Now, 105 Supercoach is good on paper, but I was concerned about the pattern of play the Blues were rolling with. It just looks different out of the back line from when he was dominating. And I know we don't need him to average 114 or whatever, but Cade Simpson, Nick Newman, they're involved a lot. They're sharing the kickouts, all three of them. 18 touches to Simpson, 19 to Newman. It's not all going through Doherty. He's not the main guy out of the back line anymore. It concerns me. He'll still average well, don't get me wrong, but my question and my thinking has sort of shifted from... Before it was like, this guy's a premium and he's priced at 436. Where now I'm like, is this guy a premium? Is he going to be better than Zach Williams, Sicily, Daniel, Ryan, Lloyd? You know, I would have been missing quite a few. You know, Hooley's in there. You know, Houston, you could argue, is Doherty going to be a bloke that we keep all season? I don't know. You'll find out what I do with him tomorrow night, but I just had concerns. Jack Martin, 19 touches, 78 Supercoach, 68% time on ground, 420k. He falls into that bracket, similar to Macpherson for me. Talented player, but I just feel as if there's more reliable, bankable options that are cheaper. That's what I think of him. And how about Paddy Dow? Didn't he light the world on fire? Okay, maybe Shorty got a little carried away with that one. Maybe I should start my Sunday's hangover with a hangover, because I woke up fresh as a daisy and was like, I'll make a video about Paddy Dow. He had 18 touches, 10 contested, 50-odd Supercoach. He'll be a player one day. I stand by that. I really do. He might not be an A grader, but I genuinely think he's going to be a very good player around the contest one day. But okay, maybe Shorty got carried away. Over at the Lions, Grant Birchall, 15 touches, 67 Supercoach from 2/3 of the game. Let's not select him. I still see him in about 6 or 7% of sides. Let's not pick him. He's going to be solid, but there's better options. Deven Robertson, 11 touches, 62 Supercoach from 63% time on ground. Heard Fagan on the radio this morning, really singing his praises, and he really gets in there. He's a hard player, and I feel as if that he'll be pushing for a round one selection, but Brisbane Lions, they bat bloody deep in that midfield, so he'll find it difficult to get a go. But he's in the mix, no doubt about it. Same can be said for Starcevic, and 11 touches, 61 Supercoach. I think he probably needed to do a bit more to get a spot, but it'd be handy. It'd be real handy if he could get a gig, because we could do with that in the back line. He's about 147k, something like that, so we could certainly do with it. But the Lions, they will be a tough side to break into for these young players. North Melbourne and the Swans. Curtis Taylor, 21 touches, 95 Supercoach points. Certainly put his hand up. I've been a fan of him for a while. He's been in and out, as you would have seen, of my side, just as I've sort of shuffled rookies. But I think he put his hand up, and I reckon he's a real good chance for round one. Jack Marnie as well. They like his pressure. They like his goal sense. Real smart player. He only had the 8 touches, 53 Supercoach, but he's got to be in the mix, I reckon. Maybe slightly unlikely, more towards the unlikely side of things, but I reckon he's a good chance. Aiden Bonar probably ruled himself out. Barely got a go, didn't play much. We really wanted to see him cement his spot. Didn't really get the chance, so, he's left my side. I've rearranged a few things, but, yeah, it's probably not what we wanted to see, really, but... And over at the Swans, Jake Lloyd, 23 touches, 98 Supercoach, just doing what he does. Really, really solid there. Jordan Dawson would have been a few alarm bells for people keen on him, because just the 13 touches and 50 Supercoach, and didn't set the world on fire at all. Now, I think you probably would have wanted a bit more, because he's priced around that 470 mark. It's going to take a bit of guts to pick him. He's that sort of guy that you want to take the next step to premium status. Probably... I think he was... Who'd they play first up? Giants, I think. I think from memory he was okay against the Giants, but that second up wasn't great. So you're probably going to have to trust your gut on that one. For me, I haven't been that keen on him all pre-season, and this didn't change my mind on that. Isaac Heaney, 11 touches, 43 Supercoach. God, I can't wait till he plays midfield. I hate watching him play in the forward line. I know he's exciting and take the odd grab, but... I just want to see the bloke unleashed in the midfield. He might enter our sides at some stage in the season, but we shouldn't start with him. And Justin McInerney, just the one tackle. And good first pracky game. I think he's pretty unlikely for round one, if that is anything to go by. And the final game. Let me just top the fluids up, because... how long have we been going for? About half an hour. So if you've stuck through the whole video for this, Well done to you. I appreciate that. As most people would have just gone the old timestamp, and I don't blame you. It's a long video, but if you stuck around, thank you very much. Jack Stephen, 26 touches, had the 97 Supercoach. Lock him in. He looked fantastic. Yeah, the Cats will bring back Selwood and Duncan, but he's going to be, if he's fit, that's the only question. If he's fit, he averages mid-90s for sure. He's probably got scope to go a touch more. I think that was off about 65% time on ground too. He looked explosive. He looked real good. Attended a lot of centre bounces too, so lock him in. Otherwise, for the Cats, I didn't see too much. It was a pretty underwhelming performance, to be honest. But over at the Bombers, Devon Smith, 21 touches, 10 tackles, 117 Supercoach. He didn't look... I was watching the game. I was at the game. I wasn't checking the stats regularly at all. And I was surprised to see those numbers at the end of the game. Obviously, the tackles boosted up. You don't always see those as obviously at the game. But, yeah, he put a pretty strong case forward. He did play a bit of time forwards, no doubt about it. Like, if you're wondering Stephen versus Smith, who's going to get mid-time, Smith definitely will play a fair bit more time forward. But they score points in different ways. You know, his tackling pressure was back to his very best. So it's hard to argue that fact. And then, lucky last, you know, probably one of the surprise packets of the pre-season has been Brandon Zerk-Thatcher. 18 touches, 104 Supercoach points, and a great interceptor, and 198k in our backlines. That could just be a little gift. It's like, come on, Supercoach gods. We need something. And he may have just delivered it, because it's no fluke. VFL, last 2 seasons, #1 ranked for intercept possessions. And last year he took the 4th most intercept marks in the VFL. So that's his mode. He reads the play well. Cale Hooker's out. Ambrose is out for even longer. And Zerk-Thatcher could just make that spot his own. You know, he's got good job security and looked really, really good. So he's not going to rack up high possessions, but he will intercept, and that's gold for Supercoach. And at the moment, we'll take that, because if he can average 70 odd, that'd be absolutely fantastic. So I reckon he's a good chance. But that wraps it up. And as I said, if you've watched all this video, well done to you. I appreciate it. Because there are a lot of names in there and there's a lot to think about. And I'll delve more into that when I talk about my team tomorrow night, because there has been a few changes and I'll walk you through some of those. I don't feel super comfortable with it. I feel like there's still a lot up in the air. There's a lot of decisions to make. It's tough to gauge who will get named for round 1 in terms of the rookies, which makes it really tough to structure up your team sometimes. But there were a few guys who impressed and locked themselves in to my side, and there are a few guys that probably said, no, maybe not. Anyway, that video will be posted Wednesday night at some stage. But thanks for tuning in as always. It's been a good little pre-season game coverage the last few weeks. So I enjoy doing these videos, getting stuck into the stats and talking about all the relevant players. So we'll have a fair bit more content, obviously, as we lead up into the first bounce. I'll be back soon. Cheers.